Josh Hopper, United States Marine Corps. I've been in for right at 5.5 years. I've had 1 deployment to Africa and 2 deployments to Iraq.
It was while I was in VMFA 115 as the executive officer that I knew Sergeant Hopper. He did 2 tours in Iraq as an infantry Marine, as a saw gunner. On his first deployment, he fired thousands and thousands of rounds from his weapon, saw lots of casualties, and experienced battle on a daily basis throughout his deployment. On his second one, he employed his weapon only 1 or 2 times, but saw more and more IEDs. In fact, he received a Purple Heart for injuries he sustained as a result of an IED.
We've been married a little over 4 years. We have 2 children. I've known my husband since I was probably like 9, and actually he chased after me for quite a few years before I'd have anything to do with him. And then we got married when I was 17.
Hug, have a kiss.
Give Daddy kisses. Before the PTSD, Josh was very social. He liked people. He was very friendly, very affectionate, showed his affection. If he loves you, period. You knew it. After the PTSD, he was really distant. He didn't have much to do with me. Of course, we had a newborn baby, so that was all on me too. He almost like didn't care. He would go to work before the sun came up. He would come home after the sun came down. He would eat, drink, and go to bed for 8 months. Then he deployed the second time. Then when he came back from that deployment, it was worse.
Sergeant Hopper, when he joined the squadron, came to me as one of my S2 intel clerks. He was a lat move from the infantry.
He gives you his heart, puts everything into anything that he does, and gives you a lot of confidence.
Not only was he this big physical specimen of a Marine who could push around more weights than just about anybody else in the squadron, but he also was a kind man. He was always very professional, did his job, and did it well.
To the outside world, he could hide it. To my family, to his family, close friends of the family, he couldn't hide it. He always had that, when you looked at him, a distant look. He never looked like he was actually in the same room with you. You could look at his face and know he was in another country. He wasn't here anymore.
I was distant not only from my wife, but everybody in my family. You know, I stopped, where it would be, I'd call my mom and dad, 2 or 3 times a week. Well, they would call me 2 or 3 times a week because I wasn't calling them, and I just hit the ignore button.
Mood swings was a big thing. Drinking a lot.
I really just pretty much wanted to stay to myself, If I had a bad day at work, I wouldn't take it out on anybody at work or anybody I worked with. I'd come home and I'd take it out on those who were closest to me.
We fought constantly.
I couldn't even enjoy being around my own kids. I couldn't just enjoy, going out for a walk anymore. Pretty much all I did was I'd come home from work, pour a drink of some sorts and just sit there until I fell asleep and wake up and go to work the next morning.
Came to work every day. We talked about baseball, talked about the squadron, talked about deploying, where we were going, what we were doing. Even the deployment to Iraq never seemed to raise any concerns with him that I saw. But it was not until the day that we gave him that award that the light went on in our head that he may be dealing with something we need to help him with. And as Sergeant Major was reading the award, I realized that Sergeant Hopper was reliving what had happened at that time. Shaken, cold sweats, and it was all happening there within 30 seconds of reading the award. And I realized that I needed to engage him and make sure he was good and make sure everything was going fine. And that was kind of the first presentation that I saw of symptoms or something that wasn't quite right.
He approached me just like any other Marine. We sat down on a picnic table. He was right in front of me. He goes, "What's bothering you?" He knew something was up. And I told him, I said, "I'm about to lose it, sir. I started telling him everything that had been going on. And I said, I've got to do something. I've let this go too long to where I can't sleep. All I think about is, these negative thoughts. I've pushed my family away. I said, I've been getting up every morning, coming to work, making y'all think everything's fine, but really I'm just putting a mask on, and you're not seeing what's, going on the inside or what's going on at home." And I said, I've got to do something about it. And he was nothing but supportive of it.
The CO actually personally picked up the phone and started searching for the experts. The medical care specialists right here at Beaufort Neville Hospital knew exactly who to point us towards, and the CO lined up inpatient treatment in Martinsburg, West Virginia.
seemed like from that day on, when I would go to get treatment, go to my classes, things like that, things started getting better. After my 3 months was up there, I came back.
He was on his way to returning to full health and clearances and everything else, and I said, bring him back. He's part of us, let's go. And he came back in and checked in at my door, and I said, all right, get to work, let's go. And it's been great.
I know if I didn't have a CO like him and a command like I had and the kind of family I had, that I might have not made it through this and gotten better. My wife supported me basically by being there. She straight up told me, I've never been in your shoes, I haven't went and done what you've done. And she goes, I never will. She goes, all I can tell you is I'll be here when you get back, I'll be here if you need me, and so will the kids. We're only a phone call or a flight away.
Having my husband back is a great thing because I can actually have a relationship with my spouse and not with Wall, because that's pretty much all I talked to him before he decided, hey, I do need help and I can ask for help. And that was probably the hardest thing for him.
It wasn't that I was afraid that, my command was going to look down on me, or they wasn't going to be there to support me, or I'd be black label or nothing like that. I think I basically had to swallow that lump they call pride in your throat.
I haven't thought any different of him. As a matter of fact, I actually respect him and trust him more now because of the fact that he had a problem, he had an issue. He brought it to me. Together we figured it out. We fixed it, and he's as good or better Marine now and in the future. I mean, he's a trusted agent for me.
Sergeant Hopper's been an inspiration. His actions, how he dealt with this, like a man, like a Marine, as a noble Marine, inspires us all to do better. Right now, he can do whatever he wants. He's got an unlimited future in the Marine Corps.
There's not a commanding officer out there or a leadership staff out there that doesn't want to help. It's sometimes challenging for a young Marine to come to a senior staff member or senior officer in the unit and tell him he's got a problem. We're all Marines. I'm just like the rest of them. I just want to help, and just like they do. So don't hesitate. Come ask.
I think it takes real strength for anyone to go get help for psychological issues. Being active duty in the military, you're kind of, branded with he's the tough guy, he's either the Marine, the soldier, the sailor, the airman, they go fight our wars for, keep our country free. You already kind of got a chip's been put on your shoulder that those kind of things aren't, supposed to bother you or get to you. So it all comes back to, it takes real strength to swallow your pride and to say, I need help, and to go actually get the help.
What I told my command and all my leaders, I told them, look, we're going to war, and this is going to change you. I'm Major General David Blackledge. I've been in the Army for just short of 34 years. That first tour in Iraq, ended up spending 14 months, initially as brigade commander, and then assumed command of all the civil affairs forces in Iraq, Kuwait, and Jordan. I was severely injured in an ambush right towards the end of my first tour, and spent the next 11 months in recovery, rehabilitation before I was returned to active duty. It was actually very helpful. Once I got to Walter Reed, the senior psychiatrist met with me and explained some of the things I could expect as I recovered, and the kind of post-traumatic stress kinds of things that may manifest themselves, and he would monitor those. I'd gotten the monitored help when I was in my recovery from injuries sustained in the ambush, but then I deployed again. And of course, as soon as you get notified you're deploying again, all your systems go on alert. You start gearing up your battle mind, particularly after you've been deployed. You know what to expect. Went through my second deployment, got wounded again during a suicide bombing, but I recovered from that and was able to finish that. It was midway through my tour, I was able to finish. But it really was about a year after that I was still experiencing nightmares. I was still having trouble sleeping. I would still get angry, unnecessarily frustrated, and I just started thinking, well, is this It's just the way it is going to be for the rest of my life, and, and this is just part of the process and the results of the experiences I've been through. And finally, during my annual physical with my doctor, he goes, "Oh no, you're clearly experiencing post-traumatic stress," and we've got a very formal protocol now. And as he talked through what I'd gone through before, one, they didn't have as clear of a protocol at that point in time, but even then, mine had been interrupted by the second deployment. He said, "Let me get you to talk with the stress management folks, the psychological health folks." And as soon as I met with them, they said, "No problem. We've got a very clear protocol. We'll get you on that, and we can guarantee that that when you're through with this, you will feel much better and won't have near the level of symptoms that you're having." So I decided, well, I'll share my own experiences and story on a broader basis. It seemed like it was the right thing to do, and I could use my experience to set the example and kind of encourage people to come forward. But when I mentioned it to my wife, she's the one that kind of said, "Well, you sure you want to do that? How's that going to affect your career? How's that going to be perceived?" And I thought about it, and I said, "Well, it really doesn't matter. It needs to be there, and if I can set the example and get people to come forward, then it's all worth it, whatever happens." And it was amazing. I expected to get the whole gamut of kind of feedback from one end of the spectrum to the other, but it's all been positive. I want to continue to play a leadership role in helping to destigmatize the whole issue, and I look at it as it's just like a physical injury. If you break your leg, you're going to go to the doctor, you're going to get help, you're going to be on crutches for a while, you're going to have a cast, but then you're going to get better. You're going to get through it, and then you're going to be tougher afterwards. And we need people, the whole chain of command, as well as the soldiers themselves, thinking of it that way, thinking of mental health and psychological resiliency and strength, that, hey, you've had an injury here, and you need to get it fixed, and there's processes to fix that, and you'll be better and stronger afterwards, so get the help. Part of the stigma is that people think if I ask for help that I'm showing weakness, whereas I think it's just the opposite. It takes real strength to say, I've got an issue that I'm dealing with, and it's affecting my life, and it's affecting my performance, and I need to go get some help and don't need to suffer with this unnecessarily. There is help to get.
Hard feelings between sons and daughters and the father, those all happen. You need to have the strength to go and get help. And those doors have to be open so that the person feels comfortable in doing that.
If you get shot up pretty bad, you don't hesitate about going for medical treatment, but there's a lot of times more than just being wounded, as you can be wounded in your mind. And there's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong by bringing that to other people's attention and asking for help.
If you or a loved one needs someone to talk to, listen. Then contact the Veterans Administration Hospital to start the healing process. Visit www.ptsd.va.gov for more information. Remember, help is here.